What's up, guys? I thought I'd sneak in a real quick Matthew chapter 20 before I go out and mow the yard. I got Elliot doing the hard part on the hill, so that's the good news. We got some good stuff in Matthew chapter 20 today. I'm also just noticing this line here. I don't know if you guys notice it. You'll notice it now, but as a lot of you know, I work outside and wear a hat all the time, so you can tell everything from here down. I don't know if you can see it on this side as well. Gets nice and sunny. I got the sweet tan line, farmer's tan line going too. I think I'm just going to try and see how dark I can get this and how white I can keep this. Look cool. Just have everything just this super huge contrast. Anyways, let's get into Matthew chapter 20. Got some good stuff. We're coming towards the end of the book of Matthew, and so we're kind of seeing Jesus, I guess you want to say his ministry starting to wrap up. We're getting close to the final week of Jesus' life. So we start seeing more and more predictions about his death and resurrection and all that kind of stuff. And so he's starting to almost upset people, I guess, because they're like, hey, what are you talking about? You didn't die. You can't die. You're the Messiah. The Messiah's going to rule everything. But anyways, let's get into this and just see what God has for us today in his word. Matthew chapter 20. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire workers for his vineyard. After agreeing with the workers on 1 denarius, that just means 1 day's pay. That's what a denarius is. It's actually a unit of money, but it's the unit of money they would give you for working 1 day. He sent them into his vineyard for the day. When he went out about 9 in the morning, he saw others standing in the marketplace doing nothing. So he said to them, you also go into my vineyard, and I'll give you whatever is right. So off they went. About noon, and also at about 3, he went out again and did the same thing. Then at about 5, he went and found others standing around and said to them, why have you been standing here all day doing nothing? Because no one hired us, they said to him. That's an important part of the story. You also go into my vineyard, he told them. When evening came, the owner of the vineyard told his foreman, call all the workers in and give them their pay, starting with the last and ending with the first. When those who were hired at about 5 came, they each received 1 denarius. That's what he told the people who'd been working all day that he would pay them. See, so you have to imagine Jesus talking to this crowd of people who knows what's going on, and they're like, oh, you have to imagine them being like, whoa, these guys showed up at the very last and they're getting the same amount of money as the guys that have been out there working all day. And so Jesus kind of setting the stage here. So down in verse 9, when those who were hired at about 5 came, they each received 1 denarius. So that when the first ones came, they assumed they would get more, but they also received 1 denarius each. Doesn't seem right, does it? When they received it, they began to complain to the landowner. That's a natural thing, right? They worked all day. They did more work. They should get more money, right? And probably that's what the crowd who's hearing Jesus tell the story is thinking too. Yeah, they should get twice as much at least. And so we go on. When they received it, they began to complain to the landowner. These last men put in 1 hour, and you made them equal to us, who bore the burden of the day's work and the burning heat. He replied to them, friend, I'm doing you no wrong. Didn't you agree with me on a denarius? So take what's yours and go. I want to give this last man the same as I gave you. Don't I have the right to do what I want with what is mine? Are you jealous because I'm generous? So the last will be first, and the first will be last. That's something we hear a lot of times, especially in the funny church culture. You'll hear people say that as a joke, but Jesus is making a very serious point here. One of the things we have to go back to, and I said it's important that when he went out around 5 and saw guys standing around, Said, hey, what are you doing out here doing nothing all day? And they said, well, no one would hire us. Why do you think no one would hire them? Well, the simple fact is when you go into a place to hire workers, you're going to hire the ones that are the best workers first. And so as the day goes on, people get all the best workers. And so your talent pool, if you want to say that, gets smaller and smaller. You get people who are a little bit lazier, who aren't quite as competent as the people you hired at the start of the day. And you get all the way to the end of the day, and those typically were people who were outcasts for one reason or another. They were handicapped, they were paralyzed for some reason or another. And so they just wouldn't get hired because they couldn't do the work that was required of them. And so a lot of times they wound up being beggars by the end of the day because they just needed something. They needed something to get food for the day. And so it's important that we know this about these people. And so this man calls these guys in, and they do, like it says, an hour's work, and they get paid the same as the people who had been there all day. And so the people who have been there all day get a little cranky about that. And so the thing is here is what is the story Jesus trying to teach us here? What's the point of this vineyard workers parable? Parables are things Jesus used to reveal things about himself that might be difficult to understand, and he would use stories to make them easier to understand. And so he's talking about the kingdom of heaven. And remember that he's this promised Messiah, and most of the time what the Israelites are looking for was someone who would be more like a king, who would come in and establish, build up this army and go to battle against whoever was in power over them. At this point in time, it was Rome. So go into battle with them, kick Rome out of Israel, and let Israel be alone, and they would have this awesome kingdom forever and ever. So Jesus is coming in saying, this is what the kingdom of heaven is really going to be like. And he's basically saying, we're going to assault Rome. Really what he meant was, I'm establishing this kingdom on earth, but we're going to do it through peace. And so he comes in here and he says that God doesn't work the way you work. God works better than you work. And so the reward, honestly, it sounds to me like it's the same for all of us in this story, whether we've been Christians for 120 years or whether we've been, they get these deathbed confessions where we give our lives to Christ at the last minute. God's reward and God's love and mercy and grace on us is the same whether we've been Christians for a long time or whether we haven't. So his reward for us, which is his love and mercy and grace and kindness and gentleness and concern, all of that stuff is our reward, and it's just as great whether I've been a Christian for 20 years or whether I've been a Christian for 10 minutes. That's the beautiful part of this story. He's like, are you jealous that I can do what I want with what's mine? That's what he tells the guys at the end. Are you jealous because I'm generous? I didn't have to hire you guys to come and work at all, but yet I chose you. I didn't leave you out there by yourself. I came to you and I found you and I chose you, and I still had more work to do. So I went out and found more workers, and still had more work to do. So I went out and found more workers. You didn't come to me, I came to you. And so that's kind of what he's saying here. So he's saying that so the last will be first and the first will be last. And the point of that sentence is not saying that we should, it kind of is saying this, but he's saying that a lot of times those, when we think like these workers, we've been a believer for a long time. So our reward may or may not be better once we get to heaven. And that's just simply not the case. That's what Jesus says. When a person is new in their faith, when they first come to Jesus, they appreciate it differently a lot of times than someone who has been a follower for years, because it's new and exciting and fresh to them. And so they're excited about it. So I think that's the point he's trying to make, is that not that their reward is better But just that they're in a different stage in their life right now, and things are different for them than they are for those who've been believers for a longer time. So, anyways, this is supposed to be a quick read through of Gospel of Matthew. So let's keep going. So that's kind of this whole awesome story. One of my favorite pictures of the kingdom of heaven. So let's go on. Verse 17. While going up to Jerusalem, Jesus took the 12 disciples aside privately and said to them on the way, "See, we are going up to Jerusalem. The Son of Man," which is a name Jesus called himself, "the Son of Man will be handed over to the chief priests and scribes, and they will condemn him to death. They will hand him over to the Gentiles to be mocked, flogged, and crucified, and on the third day he will be raised." So he's telling them exactly how it's going to go down. Verse 20, "Then the mother of Zebedee's sons approached him with her sons. She knelt down to ask him for something. 'What do you want?' he asked her." A lot of times when we read this, I think we tend to read it just because it says, "What do you want?" he asked her. I think we tend to read this as like, "What do you want?" And I don't think that's what Jesus is doing here. I think he's more saying, "What can I do for you?" "Promise," she said to him, "that these two sons of mine may sit, one on your right and one on your left in the kingdom." This lady has got some nerve. She's awful brave. Jesus has just told these guys, his followers, that he's going to be arrested, mocked, flogged, and crucified, and raised on the third day. And she comes, she's like, "Okay, so but whenever you are the king," yeah, we well know you've got some story about that, but can my sons sit on the right and left of you? Like, her perspective is so far off. She still does not understand who Jesus is. And Jesus answered, "You don't know what you're asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I'm about to drink?" "We are able," they said to him. And I don't think they understood. Clearly they weren't paying attention to what he had just told them about being mocked and flogged and crucified. Which he's saying, are you going to be able to do the things? Will you love God the Father that much? Will you love the people around you that much that you'd be willing to die for them to come to belief in me? And they're like, "Oh yeah, we'll do whatever. Jesus, whatever he needs to do, we'll do." He told them, "You will indeed drink my cup, but to sit at my right hand and my left is not mine to give. Instead, it is for those for whom it has been prepared by my Father." So he kind of foreshadows their future, because all the apostles, except for one, were martyred, which means they were killed for their belief in Christ. And he knows that, but they don't. And he's saying, you will actually suffer the same fate I'm going to suffer. And even the last one, who was not martyred, still was mocked and ridiculed and flogged and beaten and arrested. He didn't have an easy life. And so verse 24 says, "When the 10 disciples heard this, they became indignant with the two brothers." Like, I think a lot of us would. Can you believe the nerve of these two guys? They're all talking like, "Oh," and I imagine there's a lot of, "Oh, look at me, I'm James and I'm John, I'm the most important." You know, a lot of that going on, and a lot of, "I can't believe you two ding-dongs." You know, that's how I imagine the conversation went there. Jesus called them over and said, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and those in high places and those in high positions act as tyrants over them. It must not be like that among you. On the contrary, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant." And he's not talking specifically to he is talking specifically to his disciples, but the message transcends history and comes all the way through to us today, that that the one who becomes a servant will become the greatest. Like, in order to be great in the kingdom of heaven, you've got to become a servant, which means you're not seeking greatness. You're seeking servanthood. You're seeking to help and to meet needs. You're not doing things that gain you attention and acclaim. So he's on the contrary, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first among you must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. He's saying, listen, I know you guys think I'm awesome, but remember that time that I came and didn't ask for a throne or a castle or any of this stuff. I came and I served people, and this is before the Last Supper where he washes their feet. But Jesus lived his entire life as a servant. He never lived his life as a person seeking fame or popularity or glory, even though he deserved all of those things because of who he was. He did not seek that. In fact, many times he told people when he would do things for them, don't tell anyone who did this for you, because that's not what he wanted. That's not why he came. So let's go on, verse 29. As they were leaving Jericho, a large crowd followed them. There were two blind men sitting by the road. When they heard that Jesus was passing by, they cried out, "Lord, have mercy on us, Son of David." The crowd demanded that they keep quiet, but they cried out all the more, "Lord, have mercy on us, Son of David." These guys are kind of like, if you go back to the parable of the vineyard workers, these are the guys like at the end of the day who can't get hired. The best they can do is beg. And they're not asking for money. They're not asking for anything other than mercy. They just want mercy. And Jesus stopped in verse 32. Jesus stopped, called them, and said, "What do you want me to do for you?" See, these guys are kind of this is their last chance at life here, and they realize that Jesus is the only thing that's going to give them this life that they need, or that they long to pursue. And Jesus says, "What is it you want me to do for you?" He knows what they want him to do. We all know what they want Jesus to do for them. But Jesus asked him, and that's the thing, if you read through Scripture, Jesus always turns it around on us. He always places it on us individually. Who do the people say I am? And the disciples go listen to it. He says, "Now who do you say I am?" And so the question now comes to us here, as we're crying out, "Lord, have mercy, Lord, have mercy. I want something better. Lord, help me, help me, help me." And Jesus turns the question to us, what is it you want me to do for you? And then we can see where our real heart and our real desire and our real intentions are. Are we wanting something out of this life for ourselves, or are we wanting something that's going to bring glory and honor to Christ? And so that's what Jesus, he stops. He hears these guys and he calls out to them, "What do you want me to do for you?" "Lord," they said to him, "open our eyes." And that speaks volumes. It goes way beyond sight. Open our eyes. And moved with compassion, Jesus touched their eyes, and immediately they could see, and they followed him. And that's the awesome thing about Jesus, is that he will meet our needs. He always meets our needs. A lot of times we don't even understand what our needs are because they're so confused with our wants, and he will always meet our needs. And he knew what these guys' needs were. And their needs weren't just physical vision, but spiritual vision. And so he opened their eyes. And out of this gratitude for his mercy, their eyes are open to this new life in Christ, and they give their lives to Christ and they follow him. So, man, this is an amazing story. We're coming up on our next one in Matthew 21. We got some awesome stuff. That's kind of the official beginning of what we call Holy Week. So I'm really looking forward to that. Some good teachings, some hard things to think about when we think about the last week of Jesus' life. Well, that's it for today. I love you guys. I'm definitely praying for you. Hope you have an awesome rest of the week. And I'll be seeing you. Bye.